the strangest sight you ever witnessed at the Philly Travelodge?
Wow. Again, I'm thinking about things that I heard about.
Did you
Um,
often stay there or did you avoid it?
no, I did. And this was back in those days. Those were my Soma days, until Louis Spicoli passed away. I seriously did not know that it was that dangerous. We all partied on them. Me, Sabu, and Louis every night. We would just eat handfuls of Somas. And we did. I'm thinking about this time I was rooming with Gary Albright, and he's in the room, and I'm with Sabu and whatever. We went to eat, sew it up, and I'm doing what we called the Winnebago crawl, where you have to use your hands on the wall to actually walk because you have no balance and you're falling asleep while you're trying to progress down the hallway. First off, it was round, so it sucked to be in that position because sometimes you'd walk by your door several times because it was circular when I got to, but it was so hard this one particular night that pops up, and I was so, you know, drugged up, and I finally made it to the door, and I'm trying to stick my room key in, and as I'm doing it, it opens up, but the chain is on it, and Gary Albert's like, "Rob, I got a girl in here. Come back later," and I was like, "No," and I was like, "Oh." I think what I did was just slid down the wall and slept there until morning or something. Glad I made it past those days. After Louis, eventually people started dropping left and right. But before Louis, I had just heard that Eddie Gilbert had died, and that Somas was one of the factors, and I didn't really know Eddie. And besides that, I was clueless. There's so many times during that time that I was really pushing boundaries. We used to eat mixed Soma sandwiches. Me and Gary Albright, I remember doing this one time in Japan. We'd have two Somas and we put a halcyon in the middle of it. And we were eating those, and probably washing it down with a beer too. Like,
Jesus.
Yeah, I got a lot of my experience from living it, and that's one that you really don't need to if you could learn from other people's experiences.
I'll follow up with two things. Do you know what Sabu told me his most memorable experience in the Travelodge was?
I'm afraid to say.
He said, I can't tell you some of them, but once I walked into, they gave him the room, and there was still the chalk outline of the guy who died the night before in it.
Oh, right. I know that story.
Yeah, there was that one. Also, speaking of Somas, because I wasn't going to ask this, but since you brought it up, why did you get into Somas? Was it because of pain, or was it because of the culture in the business at the time?
Totally with the culture. And a lot of the wrestlers would have pills. For me, it was the Japan crew that introduced me to that. Although even before I went to Japan, like when I was in Tampa, we talk about those days, the boys did it. I remember one time, Jimmy Backlund, Gigolo Jimmy Backlund, getting me to swallow something, putting something in my drink at this little party that we were having for opening up the sportatorium, and we were drinking, and I was like 20 years old, like super young and stupid and a prima donna. But they used to have the halcyons or somas for that, mostly to help them sleep on the airplane. At least that was the logic behind it anyway, because it's such a long flight and you would fall asleep and wake up and fall asleep. And anyway, so they would all carry it on them and stuff. And it was just hanging around certain guys that I started eating somas. Mike Lazansky was a guy that, like, one time he and his girlfriend and their dog all showed up at my 1-bedroom apartment where me and my evil ex lived. And I think I don't know if we had a dog or not at the time. One time they showed up and they didn't leave for several weeks because he brought a jar of 500 somas, and he just kept me somaed up the whole time. Somehow I'd make it to the airport and back to go do my matches for the weekend. And then I would come back, and there's so many photos of me just spread eagle laying on the carpet while they're, stacking things on our faces or whatever. And it's amazing. But I always had friends that took more than me, and that was that was always kind of my safety guard, you know. And
Mm.
Louis would take 100 in one night. And then I was, you know, most I took was like 38. So I thought I'm pretty safe. But yeah, 100. And when he died, it was from him not taking as many and trying to make up for it by mixing. I don't need 100 somas. I can just do 50 somas if I also take like 4 yellow Valium and 1 Halcyon, and if I drink 1 bottle of wine. That's what did it. Man was trying to change his routine up like that, ultimately.
Yeah.
But yeah, the guys in Japan, you know, it'd be something that we would, before I knew it, I was carrying them on myself, not taking handouts from anybody else, you know, and then it was just routine until it wasn't.